Today, the Iowa Supreme Court heard oral arguments on whether or not a law passed back in 2018 that bans abortions after 6 weeks should be reinstated or continue to stop the state from enforcing that ban. The latest now in our top story at 6. In 2018, Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds signed the so-called fetal heartbeat bill into law. A Polk County judge issued an injunction blocking that law. Since then, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, which provided federal protections for abortion. The Iowa Supreme Court ruled abortion is not protected by the state's constitution. Because of those rulings, the governor filed a motion now to lift the injunction in August of 2022. So this morning, attorneys from both sides made their arguments to the state Supreme Court.
For close to 100 years, this court has repeatedly reaffirmed that courts have the authority to vacate or modify their own injunctions based on a substantial change in the law. The district court tried to distinguish each of those cases based on differences that did not make a difference in any of those cases and based on distinctions that do not make a difference here. As this court plainly held in Bear, the court which rendered an injunction may modify or vacate the injunction if over time there has been a substantial change in the facts or the law.
The state is asking this court to disregard the Iowa Constitution and its own procedural rules to revive a statute that was declared void over 4 years ago and that has been enjoined ever since. As an initial matter, this appeal is not procedurally proper because there was no new final order to appeal. And on the merits, the state's arguments fail for 3 reasons. First, the ban is void because it was unconstitutional when it was passed. Second, Iowa procedures do not permit the state's motion. And third, there was no change in law that would justify vacating the injunction.
The Iowa Supreme Court not expected to issue a ruling in the case until late June. Currently in the state, abortion is legal up to 20 weeks of pregnancy. Planned Parenthood and the ACLU of Iowa held a Zoom press conference following today's arguments. The CEO of Planned Parenthood North Central states emphasized that the organization's Iowa locations are making plans in case the 6-week abortion ban is reinstated by the Supreme Court. A representative for the ACLU of Iowa explains how the 6-week abortion ban would effectively prohibit all abortions statewide.
The way that pregnancy is dated by doctors, which is from the last menstrual period. So when we're talking about the 6 week of pregnancy, that's really just about 2 weeks after a missed period. If the 6-week abortion ban were to take effect, 98% of abortions in Iowa would be banned.
Officials with Planned Parenthood and the ACLU also called out the name of the law, the fetal heartbeat bill, as misleading because at 6 weeks, it's still an embryo and a heartbeat or a heart has not developed. Governor Kim Reynolds released a statement on those oral arguments. She says, quote, "I remain optimistic the Iowa Supreme Court will allow the fetal heartbeat bill to take effect as the Iowa Constitution requires. Since the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, decision-making power has been returned to the states. Our citizens and their elected officials have chosen to promote life and end abortion at a heartbeat, with exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother," end quote.